Good evening. I'm going to call to order our City Council meeting for this evening, Wednesday, February 8th. All members of the council are present. Councilmember Whitelock is joining us electronically, and we're joined by Mayor Burton, who's also attending electronically, various members of staff, and the public. First item of business today will be our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Paul Dodd.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dodd. We will now move on to public comment. Let's see. We have one public hearing tonight to talk about updates to certain sections of code. But if you want to speak about that, you're welcome to during the public hearing. Otherwise, citizen comment is your time to speak on anything that you'd like. Can we jump ahead on the slide so we can see the information for those that are online? If you're attending electronically, you just need to hit the little button to raise your hand to let us know that you'd like to participate. If you're here in council chambers, we have the podium right up here. I'll invite you up in just a minute. You're welcome to speak, as I mentioned, on anything, whether it's on the agenda or not. You'll be limited to 3 minutes. And typically we don't respond. We're here to listen. This is your time to be heard. On occasion, we'll refer you to make sure the appropriate member of staff is able to connect with you, or if there's something further that the council needs to take based on your comments, we'll have you get in touch with the council office. But right now, it's really just an opportunity to be heard. So that having been said, is there anybody here in person that would like to address the council during citizen comments tonight? Former Mayor Rolfe, please take the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. Before you do, I just want to quickly point out for those who aren't familiar with our former mayor, it was his construction company that was called out and praised in a council meeting a number of months ago for the work that was done on 1300 West. We had a contract that his company came in saving us over $66,000. They came in under budget. And we were scratching our heads on this one because the road opened up more than a month early. Going back and checking numbers, 56 days early. So thank you for that, but time is yours. Yep, push the button. Once it's red, you're good.
I'm here to speak on a couple of issues. The first one being the mayor's salary that you're going to be moving on tonight. I'm really happy to see that you've moved from the current salary position. My belief is that you should go far greater than what it looks like in the agenda. Our mayor, in my opinion, should be someone who is an executive, have executive experience, or has run a business, since that's what strong mayor form of government is, and that's why we voted for it. I think that the mayor's salary in Salt Lake is over $150,000 per year, and the mayor of Little Teeny South Salt Lake is over $130,000 a year. So I think that somewhere between those two should be the mayor of soon to be the second largest city in the state. So that's my opinion. I hope you have some discussion about that. I'm sure there's been plenty of discussion before, but in order to get an executive to leave their professional career, to get that kind of person that has that experience, I think it's going to take that kind of salary to let them do it. Not many will work for half the salary like I was stupid enough to do. The next thing, I'm glad that Councilmember McConaughey alluded to 13th West. That I in 47 years of doing business in this state, in this city, I've worked all over the state also, but in this city, what you've done with public utilities currently with Greg Davenport has been the most positive thing I've seen at this city. Also, Dave Murphy designed, as fast as I've ever seen, a water control structure that would have been a part of the 1300 West improvement project, but while we were right there and would have been hard to work, he designed a structure that is built and done as part of that project. And as you stated, it was done ahead of a schedule and under budget. So that's what working with the contractor and also using a good contractor happens in the city. So I just wanted to shout out to both Greg Davenport and Dave Murphy. Both, I look forward to the next job that we get here. Third, Chief Wallentine. I can't say enough good about this wonderful leader. We've always had wonderful officers. I run out of time already?
Unfortunately, you have.
Okay. Sorry, I had a whole bunch more things to say, but I think I got a few of the good ones out.
No,
But Chief Wallentine, another great asset to this company, went much better than the one I had to work with. Thank you.
thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address the council tonight during citizen comment? All right, sorry, Anne-Marie.
I was gonna say, Anne Marie's not gonna jump.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna totally jump up. Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I got distracted by something that was happening behind me. I'm Anne Marie. I am the manager of the Bingham Creek Library. And I just wanted to share with you, we have a really cool program coming up, partnering with Salt Lake Community College. They're coming out to highlight some low, no-cost career training opportunities for people that are just amazing. The We're All In program and the WISE program. We're doing that on February 28th, which is a Tuesday, from 7 to 8 p.m. So if you're looking for people, if you know people who are looking for some retraining opportunities, and a lot of these are like quick 2-year less kind of situations. So just a wonderful opportunity for our community members if they're looking for a change career-wise. So thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else for citizen comment? All right, and I don't see anybody from the public online that's shown an interest, so we will close citizen comment and move on to reports to city council. So we'll start off first by council member reports from council assignments. Council member Bloom.
The Rules Committee, we are going over some final little things and working when we can meet. Zach. But that's about it. We're just finalizing some of the things and that's about it on some of the sections that we didn't get to in work session.
So it should be brought back to the full council here shortly. Any other council reports? Yep. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you. I was met with the Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber West, a week ago to their annual membership meeting. As a member of the board, got introduced as a member of the board and the Board of Governors there, and had a little orientation as well. And we'll be meeting with the their version of the LPC. I forget what they call it, but it's tomorrow morning. So that's going well. They're doing good work.
Thank you. Any other reports for council?
I don't have.
Well,
Councilmember Worthen.
just upcoming, we have a committee meeting for the utility budget on the 14th. And then we are in the planning stages for the budget committee to have something later this month.
Fun way to spend Valentine's Day.
That was Alan's pick. I figured he was in trouble with his wife.
Hey, at least the Association of Municipal Councils canceled our meeting on the 14th.
Okay, well, I'm going to see 80 for Brady on Valentine's, so just throwing that out there.
All right. So moving on from, if there are no other council member reports, we'll go to the council office report with Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. I think I've talked to most, if not all of you. Just I want to touch a little bit on the general plan. The general plan, the council appointed the committee, 15 members of the general plan committee back in October of 2020. Last night at Planning Commission, the Planning Commission voted 6-0 to provide a positive recommendation to the council. So we are going to plan to bring that back, hopefully next week at work session, to just have an introduction on that. If there's additional information that we need to discuss, we could do that also in March for hopeful adoption by the end of March, first part of April. That's the current timeline, but it depends on what the council would, what additions you would like. The citizen committee has written most of the content that's in there. It's been reviewed by staff and legal. What we're looking at from the council, we'll get that out to you shortly, is the goals that we talked about in the future land use map, and if there's any glaring omissions that you see that we don't have. We're working on some land use items that'll be coming to you in February, and that's my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next, we will move on to, I was going to say Mayor Burton, but I know he is in transit. He was in the meeting electronically a few minutes ago. However, it does not look like he's there right now, so we will move over to Mr. Lee. We may come back to the mayor at another point. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like Isaac to give you an update on the City Hall remodel and Greg to give you an update on some issues we've had with the freezing weather. And then I'd like to give you an update after those two on an issue from the police department.
Please proceed.
Good evening, council. A couple weeks ago, I talked about several things we were looking into on City Hall. The first being 3 of the major electrical components downstairs. We were being told that we may not be getting those until September of 23. We were investigating opportunities to either do the testing on site to eliminate a portion of that delay that they were talking about. And we were also looking at other vendors to see if we could secure that equipment elsewhere. Unfortunately, we've got word back on Monday this week that there is not an opportunity to do that sooner. So the main, basically on the building, you've got the generator system and the Rocky Mountain Power that come into a transfer switch inside the building. And then from the transfer switch, it goes to a main panel. That main panel is one of those 3 pieces of equipment that is delayed until September of this year. The good news, if there is any, is that the rest of the building will be done sometime in July. But we will be waiting on these components. We're going to try and have a preliminary plan here in the next few weeks to talk more about that, of what the next steps will be to expedite as soon as that equipment comes. But just want to warn you that we're looking at October of this year for final completion.
Given that they're already saying it's as far out as September, do we have a contingency plan if that slips further?
At this point, we don't. We've talked to other vendors, we've talked to other suppliers, and there's 3 companies that provide this equipment basically, and they are all out about this time frame. They're really, this time frame they're giving us is their worst case scenario. So they're, potentially it could come in sooner, but that's the date that they're giving us is September 20th. From that point, when we get the equipment, I just want you guys to know that there's several things we have to do to get C of O certificate of occupancy after that. We're going to have to balance the HVAC system. We'll have to test the life safety systems and finish up a few tests once those electrical components are connected to make sure all the circuits are working. We have 2 other items that are on long-term delay. We're going to be waiting on 16 doors on the second floor. They've told us that that's 6 months out from now when we'll get those doors. We've saved the existing doors. They'll stay in place. So if that goes beyond when the electrical components will be here, we'll still have the life safety and the barriers to allow that area to open up. And then also we've got a 5 to 6 month delay on the coils for the chiller system that had to be upgraded once we found the piping issues for the circulation system. But I just want to be upfront and let you know that we're doing everything we can to look at other options, identify if there are other options or other resources. And then also I mentioned last time that there was a change order coming due to the fire rating in the dais, in the council chambers room. That room, when we opened if you remember, when we opened the ceiling, the fire rating didn't go all the way to the roof of the building. We got a bid to have them just do normal fire rating with drywall on both sides and then the fire tape and items, but the bid came back that we can do the one side, but the other side will only tell you that it's time and material, which was going to be very expensive because of all of the angles and equipment that was on that side of the building. We worked with Doug, our building our building manager, and we looked at two different products that we believe we could use, and he approved them, and we got bids. The bid is $115,000 to complete that fire rating in that area. The original one came back just under $120,000, but we found a few things that weren't appropriate on there. So the change order's for $115,000, and I'm in the process of approving that. These are all items that, for the most part, are not foreseen, and I apologize for the bad news. But we are working diligently that if we can get our fire marshal's approval when the majority of the building's done, that we'll be able to do other things to expedite the move back, meaning all the furniture we have in storage can be hopefully moved in with his approval and have things ready. So as soon as the contractor says you're good to go, we can basically open the doors and allow people in.
Thank you. Question from Councilmember Green.
So how much is it gonna cost us if the building's basically done in July, how much is it gonna cost us to sit there until October?
As far as like renting the other building?
Is it gonna cost us, is it gonna cost us any money to the contractor or anything?
No, everything that's happening is a part of the current bid, minus the change orders, that change order and a couple other small change orders that I've mentioned. Everything else is basically a sunk cost because we have agreed with the state to maintain and rent the other building through October of this year. So there may be a small increase in utilities as we get things up and running, but there shouldn't be further cost.
And we can't find these parts on eBay?
No. That main panel is, if you walk downstairs, it's about 8 feet wide and 8 feet tall, and there's 6 breaker systems in it.
McConaughey's got one like that on his back, on the outside of his house. We'll go steal that one.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions or?
I'm not seeing any other lights or hands online, so I think that's it.
Well, thanks again for your support.
Right, next up, Mr. Davenport, Utilities.
I'm here to give a quick update of something that happened on January 31st. You may remember in my house when I woke up that morning, it was 4 degrees outside. By 10 o'clock, we had 35 no water complaints inside homes, emergency calls that came to Public Works asking for Public Works utility people to come out and to help them. We had a hydrant that froze, and we also had 4 breaks, all before 11. I can't say enough good things about our crews. All of those repairs we had responded to that day, and given help on our side if it was our problem, or given instruction on their side. One of the events I wanted to talk about, we had two of our operators, Will Milgate and Todd Allred, go out to a house, and the person that they visited was a single mom living with an aunt and a child. They did not speak English, and they went and tried to explain to them why they weren't getting water inside the house, and after doing that for a while, they left. They felt really bad, and so they brought someone who spoke Spanish back and came and then re-gave that instruction that day. And then they came back the next day, and they still hadn't unthawed their line, and so they helped them to unthaw their line, even though it was on the customer side. So I just want you to know that the utility group does really care about the customers we serve, and I hope that we continue to give good service. Any other questions?
Not really. I just want to make sure that the mayor's office caught that. I know there's always nominations for the Hats Off Award, and Corbin's nodding his head, so it sounds like that was relayed.
Yep, we did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, I just want to give you a quick update about something from the police department. You may recall we had a gang-related triple homicide back in July. It was a terrible event in our community. There were 4 suspects. Just recently, I believe today or yesterday, the 4th of 4 suspects was caught, apprehended, arrested. The DA's office is ready to charge. This is the result of really, really good detective work by our major crimes unit and our gang detective, Ben Sullivan. They really did a good job with this. So just want to let you know they've apprehended all the individuals involved with that event. That's all we have today.
Thank you. We'll move on to the legislative update with Tawny Barker, and then after that, the mayor has rejoined us online. So after the legislative update, we'll circle back to the mayor's report. Tawny.
Thank you, Council Chair. I am not unfreezing lines or saving lives, but we are serving as the lead negotiator this year on several bills. So thank you for the opportunity to allow me to serve up at the legislature and for investing in the work that we do as cities. I want to talk about a few specific issues with you tonight that will impact your work as a city council. We're halfway through the session, but we've only moved through about 9% of the bills filed, so we have a lot of work ahead of us. It's a little bit like a fire hose this time of year. As a city, we're currently tracking about 200 bill files and numbered bills. There's about 150 currently numbered bills that we're tracking on your tracker, so make sure you refer to that for more specific information. So far, about 40 of those bills have a significant financial impact on municipalities, and I'm going to highlight a few that are land use related and have a significant budget impact. So I'm happy to tell you that probably the most significant land use bill that we'll face this year has been filed in the legislature. That bill is SB 174 that's sponsored by our own Senator Fillmore, and then there's a kind of a partner bill, HB 364, that was sponsored by Representative White. This bill represents the changes to the moderate income housing, and I have to tell you, I'm pretty happy with it. This is one opportunity where I think the league really worked through the session to help educate representatives and members of the UEOC and CHA, and I think this is certainly a lot of work on our senators' part to try to compromise and really listen to the data instead of just the developers, which is usually what happens up on the Hill. So if you have an opportunity to send a quick text to Senator Fillmore or an email thanking him for his work on this bill, I think that would this would be very timely as it's going through the legislature right now. A couple main things that this bill does: it does set penalties for non-compliance with moderate income housing. It's a $250 a day fine to the Olene Walker Fund. This is major progress from where we started, which was the developers asking us to have our B&C road funds taken away as municipalities. So a major adjustment there. It clarifies when a garage can be included as an IADU, and it also amends restrictions or requirements on IADUs. Probably the most significant to our city is the parking requirement. They're moving away from one standard parking spot required per IADU to, if you have you can ask for an additional parking spot as long as there aren't 4 off-street parking spots. So if a house has 2 garage spots and 2 driveway spots, we can't require them to have an additional off-street parking spot. So that is the one significant change that I feel like we're still negotiating on. But that's the thing, one thing you'll see in this bill. And then it also enacts a new process for subdivision review. Largely this process follows our own process in the city of West Jordan. So it's been an area that we could kind of take a lead on. The one significant difference is the number of processing days, and we're still working through that in negotiations with the legislature. So happy to see this bill come through. We're still expecting, the developers are really pushing back. I think there will be some change to the bill before it's finalized. But that's when you'll want to watch move through the system along with its partner bill through the House.
Connie?
Yeah.
Why are they focused on subdivision plats?
Largely because they feel like they're moving too slow. And again, they're relying on a process very similar to what we do in the city already, but there are smaller cities who don't have quite the staff bandwidth that we have. And so they're sending their subdivision plats through Planning Commission and through council and through much more lengthy processes than these are. So this is largely a clarification. And then they do feel like it will speed it up. So I mentioned that we're still negotiating on days. Right now, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but right now I believe we have a 20-day preliminary review process. They're asking for a 15 business day review process. So there is still some give and take that's taking place, but largely it mirrors our current process.
Yeah, I'm just confused as you look at the numbers that come out of California when they decided to, I'm going to say, do away with single family zoning and allowed up to a fourplex to be built on what was a single family lot. And like a year ago in the 20,000 starts or whatever it was in Los Angeles, they had 211 applications. It made no difference. And so what I'm wondering is and maybe this is something that we need to add to this bill,
Yeah.
is some sort of reporting mechanism that keeps track of we spent all this time and money and did it do anything?
Yeah.
Because my concern is that we keep messing around with HB 82 and 462 last year and now 174, and nobody can tell us the effectiveness of any of those changes. And so we just keep saying, well, it feels good. And that's not the way to make those kind of decisions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I 100% agree with your comments, council member. And I think that's one of the things that we've really been pushing with our own legislators is, hey, let's make sure these things are working before we move to the next thing. And sometimes they forget that they worked on 462 last year. So they think by this year we should all be done. But we just all submitted our moderate income housing plans in the fall. And so it's a little bit longer process than that. So that's one of the messages that we're trying to share. And I think the reporting mechanism is really important. The league is kind of already trying to set something up, at least on the unofficial back end, so that we are tracking some of that. But I think you're right. If we could get it in official language, that would probably be helpful too. So I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna make a note and take that back to the league. The last 2 land use bills that we're still expecting to come out are a LIDS bill, and there already is draft language on a PIDS bill. So LIDS is kind of the independent PID, so to speak, that's paid off before the house is sold. The PIDS bill is a little bit, quite frankly, more draconian when it comes to municipal land use planning. So we'll be watching for that. I do want to, Chair, I know we're running short on time. I have 2 transportation bills that I'd like to share with you and a police-related bill if you're okay with that. Okay. 2 transportation bills. House Bill 301 is transportation amendments. This is Representative Schultz. This actually reduces the gas tax. His argument there is that people are paying too much for gas as it is. We need to reduce the gas tax, which lengthens the runway for the amount of time before we hit the gas tax cap that the legislature has set. This obviously would have an impact on cities as we get funding through the gas tax. He's expecting to kind of supplement that with higher vehicle registration and EV charging station charges. But the offset just doesn't match up right now. And so we're doing some pushback on this one. and we'll continue to negotiate it, but that does impact the budget. The second one is SB 175, which would impact B&C road funds. It would set a cap for cities like ours in 2022. They would take all the growth funds after that and put them in a restricted use fund for rural cities. Obviously fighting back on this one. I spent most of the day yesterday working on this particular bill, and I think we have some changes that will allow for rural cities to get what they need, but those should be state funded as opposed to locally funded. We need to keep that local money in our cities. So we'll keep looking at that one, and hopefully I'll have an update for you guys in the next few days that I'll send out via email. And then last but not least, two public safety bills. One is House Bill 104. That's the public safety retirement bill that we've been talking about. I've worked with Denise to get a fiscal impact on this bill. If this bill were to pass, it would be a $1.5 to $1.6 million cost to our city over and above what we're currently paying. The pushback that we've offered on this is, while we understand the value of our officers and we want to invest in them, what we're getting as feedback from our officers is largely that they care more about their take-home pay than their retirement pay. And so they'd rather see an increase like this in their take-home pay as opposed to their retirement, and we just simply can't afford to do both. Secondarily, we really like the idea of a 401k where people would contribute and the city would match. So that's kind of where we're at on this one. It has semi-lukewarm support in the Senate right now, and so I'm not sure that it will pass, but it's one that I think we need to keep our eyes on. And the second one is Senate Bill 58, which is a background check amendment, and this goes hand in hand with the Clean Slate bill that they passed a few years ago that cleans the slate of people who've had, automatically cleans the slate of people who've had a violation or conviction. And the trouble that we have with this is it moves up, it takes what is now a 1-year process and moves it into a 90-day process. We anticipate this would require at least 3 temporary staffers for a year to bring us up to speed, and then probably 1 to 2 additional records clerks. So the fiscal impact on this one is somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 to $500,000, just depending on whether we can get that 90 days adjusted. So those are the bills that I really wanted to share with you today. Does anyone have questions on other bills that are before the legislature or anything I can answer?
The Senator Weiler bill.
Yeah. So that one is Senate Bill. I'm going to forget the number of it. No, it's 80.
It's the witness, all
I
that
know what
other
he's
stuff.
asking me about. So that particular bill has been held in House rules. I don't think they have the votes to move it forward at this time, particularly with the House. So I don't think that's going to move anywhere, but if it does, I'll be sure to let you know.
Right, any other questions? And not seeing any from Councilmember Whitelock either.
Great, thank you for your
very
time.
much. And we will now go to the mayor's report from Mayor Burton.
Thank you, Council Chair McConaughey. It's a pleasure to be with you virtually today. As you can see, we have some fantastic things happening in our city. Thank you for those who have already reported on the great things that are going on. A couple of things I want to bring up to your attention is Chamber West started an annual event where they're going to be doing their leadership, moving people in their leadership positions. They did it as a breakfast. I had the privilege to attend that, and we had 3 council members there as well. So thank you, council members who were able to come and join with us at that event. Also during the session, Chamber West holds their legislative and parent committee meetings once a week, and they also have 2 meetings once a week. It has to do with legislation. One's on Monday and one's on Thursday. I have been attending those to keep them apprised of our city standing on bills that I get, and receiving information back from them on other bills that may affect our city and answering questions for them. So that's been really good. Last time we mentioned about COG and the position you were in, and I wanted to make it clear that I am no longer the chair of COG, which is the Council of Governments. I am now the past chair. And also the same thing with the Jordan River Commission. As of last Thursday, I moved from the chair position to the past chair position with the Jordan River Commission. And of course, the Jordan River Commission has to do with the trails and the Jordan River and other things associated with that. And speaking of the Jordan River, recently we have received 2 grants to help with the Big Bend project on the Jordan River. We got one for $30,000, and that is the vegetation and restoration grant, which will help get rid of some of the invasive plant species in the Big Bend site area. And another one is for $99,000 for clearing and grubbing of the future corridor that's going to go through the Big Bend project. And so I'll keep you apprised as work happens over there. And as we see some significant changes, I will arrange another tour over there and see our progress. You may have heard that the NBA All-Stars is having some event coming on in our fantastic city. Well, Mayor Wilson has invited the other mayors of the county to join with her in a special reception for them on Friday, and I will be there with them to join them there. On Thursday the 9th, I'm going to have some mayor open office hours, so if there's anybody in the public who would like to come and meet with the mayor, I'd be happy to meet with you there. And I want to remind you about the Small Tall Ball happening on February 17th. I plan to be there with some of my grandchildren. And one more thing, on Saturday, the 11th, that's Scouting for Food Saturday. At every Smith's in West Jordan, there will be some scouts there collecting food. And I think it'd be great, council, if some of you have an opportunity between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. to stop by the Smiths and say hi to the scouts who are collecting food for the needy. That is my report.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Any questions for Mayor Burton?
Thank you.
There do not appear to be any. So thank you very much. And safe travels. Look forward to seeing you in person shortly. All right. That concludes the reports to City Council and brings us on to our public hearing. Tonight, we do have one public hearing regarding Ordinance 23-05. And Mr. Anderson, are you going to be talking us through this one?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair. This ordinance came to you at work session in January Committee of the Whole. It had been to the Planning Commission back in November. These are land use code amendments in 13.7C and 13.7D. I've got on the request for council action 7 bullets that just talk about what these changes do. So I'll just go over those very quickly for those that are here in attendance. These sections of code, it amends the references to use the correct department name, which is now Community Development. It defines the public hearing process, which is a request by the City Council for Planning Commission and City Council. What that is that once the Community Development Department or the council office mail out notices for a public hearing, the applicant is not able to pull or withdraw their public hearing off the agenda. It also prohibits incomplete applications without all submittal requirements. This is also a council request. What this means is that if an applicant wants to just do a future land use request or a rezone, they need to be able to communicate to the city what those changes are so that the city can prepare adequate public facilities, what is its impact that's being proposed so that you have all the information that you have asked for. It expands the application analysis across the various city departments now that you have public utilities and public services, that they should be able to provide analysis for what the impact of that project may have in those various city departments. The legal department had requested changing the term findings to criterion determinations. That was a request from Mr. Rob Wall. We also provided consistent wording, so we use future land use map in all instances, general map amendments in other instances, and then we've corrected some section lettering on the submittal requirements. At the work session on January, the discussion of the council was to provide some options back to you regarding the updates to the general plan. There is a separate document in the packet in PrimeGov that provides 3 options, and I've got those for you. I'll put them on the screen. And so when you approve this, what we will need is which option you desire. What's in, and Duncan will have to, Mr. Murray will have to help me. I think in the current code it's every 5 years currently. But if you remember, the general plan that we're currently using is dated 2012. In October of 2020, which I mentioned earlier, we seated a Citizens General Plan Committee to review the general plan. which was 10 years ago, be 11 by the time we adopt this here in 2023. So the three options are, the first one, option number one is complete a review of all the elements of a general plan at least once every 5 years, and periodically update as required by law the moderate income housing element, which you have to do every year, the water use and preservation element, which is also annual, the station area plans, which is coming, and other elements associated with the general plan. So that's consistent from what was in the code, if I'm right, Mr. Murray. That was what was in the original code that we brought to you January 15th. Option two, the blue area, is what's been added as an option. So it's the same wording, so the yellow is the same with all three. What this one does is the city council shall complete a comprehensive update to at least 1/3 of the elements of the general plan at least once every 5 years. And then option three is furthermore, the city council shall complete a comprehensive update to all the elements of the general plan at least once every 10 years. So we've, as you've looked at the document, the red line document, the yellow is what was presented to you in January. The blue sections of that are the amendments that you had asked for at that meeting. And so that is what we are presenting to you this evening.
All right, are there any questions for Mr. Anderson before we go to the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing for anybody who wishes to address the council on this item. Looks like we do have a few folks who have joined us online. None of them by telephone only, all of them are within the Zoom. If you'd like to speak to the council on this one and you're online, please hit the button to raise your hand. If you're here in the room and you'd like to speak on this item, please come to the podium. I saw one hand waving in the room, but looks like they don't want to speak to this one, and I don't see any online, so we'll return to the council for discussion. Sorry, thank you. I'll close the public hearing and return to the council for discussion and or motion. Councilmember Green.
Mr. Anderson, go back to the three options so that we can all just see them, if you don't mind. I'm going to tell you, I like option one. Here's why I don't like option two. If we complete an update to at least 1/3 of the elements of the general plan once every 5 years, by the time we get done with the last third, we're probably going to be 17 years into the general plan that we adopted. Because you go 5, 10, the third one's done 15, it's going to take a year or two. That's 17 years to update an entire general plan. Absolutely not. We can see how bad, at some point in time, maybe the general plan slows down because we don't have 2,000 acres on the west side that we need to fill, that's going to be filled up. And but at the same time, once we fill up 2,000 acres, we probably got 2,000 acres that include City Hall that we have to redevelop. So I just think we have to do this every 5 years. If that means we have to suck it up and we have to do it every 5 years, because we've seen because our general plan, the last time it was updated in 2010, by the time we get it actually approved and established, we're going to be almost we're going to be early 2023. That's a 13-year-old plan. That's nonsense. We've got to do this every 5 years.
Okay. Councilmember Whitelock.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Kelvin. I just want us to remember that the general plan is how our city grows. And some of the issues that I've seen while serving on the council is that developers will come and say, well, your general plan hasn't been updated for X amount of years, so we want to do this instead because whatever you had planned is out of date. So I favor a more frequent review of that general plan, so I too favor one.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Jacob, Councilmember Pack.
Thank you. maybe somebody can help me out here. Option 2 says, oh, option 2 is a third. Okay, never mind. I skipped the 1/3 part there. I was like, they both say 5 years, so somebody help me out. Never mind. I got it. I'm good. I don't disagree, but I'm not sure that I agree either. So thank you.
Councilmember Pack.
Great, thank you, Chair. I had the good fortune of serving on a general plan committee here for West Jordan, and that took more than the 2.5 years this last iteration took. It took 3 years. And so if we do want to break out the general plan into portions, perhaps we could do it so that each portion is updated every 10 years. Agreed that if we're just doing the 17-year plan, I agree would be too long. But if we are doing 5 years and it takes approximately 3 years to get through a version, that only allows 2 years for implementation, which is hard to get the ball rolling. And really, that doesn't leave 2 years, because if this language is saying we need to complete a comprehensive review, well, then that means we need to start a couple of years in advance, and then there's never a time where we're really not in the process of updating the general plan. And granted, the demographics of our city morph and shift, and definitely agreed, as Councilmember Green mentioned, we've got thousands of acres that we definitely want to put to the highest and best use. But I wonder if we're doing it too often, if we don't let there be enough traction to be had with the plans that are already in place before we go changing them again. Thank you.
Vice Chair Bloom.
I don't mind option 1 because I think if we're consistent in our review of it, it's not going to take 3 years to complete a general plan if we have a process in place and stay consistent. And with our growing city the way it is, I feel that making sure we do review the entire thing every 5 years is prudent to making sure our city is growing in a way that we want it to grow and the vision that we have. And then as it slows down, as we fill up what we have, then we won't have to do that every 5 years and we can adjust that accordingly. That's my 2 cents.
All right, and real quick, I'll weigh in on this one.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of option 1, but for a different reason. I don't want to find ourselves knowing how much time it took. Yes, it took a couple of years to go through this time, but it was with Councilmember Nichols and Councilmember Southworth that I was asking to restart the general plan committee. So that was 2016, 2017. Which was only 4 years after it started, and it took some time to get there. So if we run into logistical issues again, I would hate to find us at a point where we're not compliant with our own code, and it gives developers an option to say, you're not compliant with this, therefore the plan doesn't need to be considered. I should be allowed all these exceptions to do what I want to do and invalidate the general plan. So for that reason, primarily is why I like option number 1. Councilmember Green.
And I know I hate to wordsmith from the dais, but I'm wondering if in option 1, instead of saying that we complete a comprehensive review, maybe we use the word initiate.
Undertake?
I'm just thinking if we start it every 5 years, it gives us a gap to work on it, but we know that it's going on every 5 years.
Councilmember Jacob.
I had a word, and then when you said undertake, I started thinking about your word instead of my word. I was thinking maybe commence, but I think undertake and commence are kind of the same thing.
I like undertake because it could already be in process. It may not have to be initiated fresh.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any other lights or hands online.
So
Councilmember Green.
I'm going to make a motion that we move to approve ordinance number 2305, adopting option 1, substituting the word complete with undertake.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember Green and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion? Sorry, I'm watching online to make sure I catch if Councilmember Whitelock's hand comes up. I'm not seeing that. Councilmember Jacob and then Councilmember Pack.
Yeah, can you throw the options back up? Sorry. Thank you. I like this. I like option one because it is a review, not an update, whereas the other two options mandate an update, a comprehensive update, and this only says we are going to review it, and if it's still good, then it's still good. And I like the, I like that. So we're taking a look, but we're not necessarily throwing it out and rewriting every 5 years. So I'm in favor. Thank you.
Councilmember Pack.
Thank you, Chair. Agreed with Councilmember Jacob that at least this doesn't say that we will complete a comprehensive update. We're going to review everything, but it doesn't necessarily need to be rehashed if we review it and feel it's prudent and applicable to the current trends. Then that's good enough instead of having to assemble numerous people and taking numerous years. So appreciate the input from others, and I think that's a good, if we're going to go with an option, I'd go with option one then if we're going to go 5 years instead of 10. Thank you.
That one is the motion, so not seeing any other lights or hands online, I'll look to Ms. Quick for a vote.
Thank you. Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bloom,
Yes.
Chair McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitelock,
Yes.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember Worthen.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 7-0.
All right, that brings us on to business item 6A, which is setting the mayoral salary for the next 4-year term, which begins January 1st, 2024. And this one's got Mr. Anderson's name on it, so I'll stall for just a second while we wait for him to come to the microphone to introduce the topic. Hopefully, if I speak a little bit louder, he'll realize that we're waiting for him, and there we go. Mr. Anderson.
Sorry, thank you for stalling for me. At the last meeting, the council gave direction to bring back a resolution to formalize the selection of the mayor's salary. This is for the next term. This is not for the current seated mayor. This is for the successor mayor beginning January 1st, 2024. At that meeting, last meeting, there were 4 of you that indicated support for setting the mayoral salary at $116,000. This is not the formal process. The formal process will go through the budget. This is just giving direction to staff to plug this number into the budget documents as you prepare the budget. The city code requires you to have this selected by the filing date, which is, I'm told, is June 1st of 2023. So you have until that time to, if you want to adjust it. When you approve the budget, the filing period is ended, so you've got to have it done before you approve the budget. The budget includes, approving the budget includes the state requirement of a public hearing and it be adopted by ordinance. That is what I have for you this evening.
All right. So then this evening, it's the ask of council is a resolution with the proposed salary to include in the budget, correct?
That is correct.
So I would look to the council for discussion or a motion. Councilmember Pack, followed by Councilmember Green.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you. And perhaps I was misunderstanding. I thought that we were using 116 as a starting point, that's what we agreed on, that we would use it as a starting point for discussion, not necessarily to put it in there. So the only comments that I had on there is similar to as Mayor Rolfe mentioned. I believe it limits some demographics of citizens that could otherwise be able to run for mayor. The concern I have is if it's at 116, that's raising it from 105, which is true, but we're setting that a year in advance and it's for a 4-year term, so we're setting it for 5 years. And I just feel that that's lower than any other employees raise, and or what will we have to factor in, there's not a COLA in this either. There was also talk of linking it to the current population count, which the 2020 census has 117,000, which if you do the calculation of projection, that's 121,000 as of 2022. So I thought that I would just make that comment and see if there's any appetite to perhaps increase that. Thank you.
We'll go online to Councilmember Whitelock.
Thank you, Chair. While I want the best mayor that our city can get, I also want someone that's serving as our mayor that's serving. To me, this is while it's a compensated position, I want someone that their purpose of being the mayor is to serve, not for a dollar figure. And I just feel strongly that way. And when our per household income is less than what we discussed and agreed on last time, I think that we're setting it at a fair amount, that we can get good candidates. As Mayor Rolfe explained, he did step up and serve, even though it wasn't at an income level that maybe he desired. He chose to serve our city because he wanted to serve our city, and that's who I want to serve. I want people that want to serve our city, not that they're filing to run for an office because of a dollar sign. I don't think money necessarily equates quality. So for me, I want us to get the best candidates that we can to run, and I don't think it necessarily means money. I think that people can have those same experiences and be willing to serve. And tonight, when we vote on this, I am going to share that I do plan to run for mayor, so I am going to abstain from this vote and any others that have to do with mayoral salary. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Worthen.
Okay, so this number is actually not tied to the population. That was just kind of a joke that I threw out there. What I did was I looked at our current mayor's salary, and I looked at the cities when Alan had given us the what the other cities had and what their populations were. The closest population was Provo to ours, and their mayor's, I believe, was about 130. I like happy mediums, so I looked what's the middle ground between the 105 and the 130. That's where the 116,541 came out, because I'm like, it would have been like 117. Bam. That's what that was. So, David, that was not there was no correlation to the population. It just kind of came out that way. Anyhow, that's what I came up with. I feel like I don't like being at the top, and I don't want to be at the bottom. I think the middle is something we can justify to the citizens, and going way over that, I really don't want to do that. I think the middle ground between a city that is comparable to our population makes the most sense.
Councilmember Green.
Well, I appreciate the comments about if the salary was higher, we might attract those who are executives to run the city. As I look down the full-time mayors in our form of government, that it's on the screen right now, I'm not sure that there's one of them that was a CEO or a professional manager that ran an organization before they became mayor. I'm pretty sure that's the case in Salt Lake City. I don't know Mayor Kafusi's background in Provo. I do know the Mayor of Sandy's background a little bit. Taylorsville. I'm not sure that it makes any difference. While I appreciate that comment, and while I think that actually, if I knew it was going to attract that kind of candidate, I would vote for it. But looking across the board with mayor salaries and the types of government that are most like us, and who runs, I just don't see the professional group there. So I just as soon stay with this 116.
Have you already spoken on this one, Councilmember Jacob?
Nope.
Go for it, and then I'll follow after.
All right. I was going to say, I'll put in my 2 cents, but that would raise it up by just that much more. No. Or maybe we would discount it. In any case, whatever number we pick is going to be arbitrary. It's an arbitrary number that we're just picking. You can't decide that, well, Salt Lake mayor pays more, so I'm going to go run for mayor in Salt Lake instead of West Jordan. It doesn't work that way. It's not like we have to be competitive for like we do for city managers and for city attorneys and for department heads and police officers and things like that, because you can be a police officer in a city you don't live in, but you can't be a mayor in a city you don't live in. That's not allowed. Even though it kind of has been tried once, sort of, by the elected official. So whatever number we pick, it's what we're deciding is what is fair for the amount of work that is involved and the type of work that is involved. And we're deciding that, and we can use other cities kind of as a benchmark, what they determined is fair, and we can kind of look at that and say, you know, why did they come to that conclusion? Why didn't they? But it's an arbitrary number. It is totally something we just make up, and we can justify it however we want to, but we're just making it up. And whether it's 116,000 or 117,000 or 120,000 or 105,000 or whatever, we're just making it up. Let's not get too I don't know, you know, high and mighty, but that my justification is better than your justification, that $1, you know, $1 per resident is a, you know, whether it's real or not real, is a justification, or whether I'm attracting a 110,000 salaried, you know, executive from somewhere, which by the way now is about a middle management salary, not a upper echelon executive salary. You know, it's let's just realize we're just making up a number. Let's be fair to whoever it is, and let's not to whoever it is, but to the position. Not to the person, but to the position. Let's be fair to the position, be real about what we're asking somebody to do, and be real about what we think that ask is worth. And I don't think 116 is enough.
Okay. And I think I'm in agreement with that thought for the most part. As was shared with Mayor Rolfe, I think it should be higher. As we're looking at the salaries of other mayors that are out there, the first thought is that this is where it's at right now. As their new mayors come in, I'm sure these will be changing. So we're already looking kind of in the rearview mirror as we're trying to figure out where we're going to go. We're looking at other people's rearview mirror. Second thought is, as I look at this, if I were to throw out the high of 160, throw out the low of 109, and then look at those that are in the middle, 130, 136, 130, 126, it would be right about the 130 mark. Personally, I would prefer to see us right about 130. That's my 2 cents plus $129 some odd thousand and change. Looking to the council for any further comment or a motion.
Whoops, yeah, what the heck. I move to approve resolution number 23-005 is written.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Green, second by Councilmember Worthen. Any discussion to the motion? Councilmember Jacob.
I'll be a no, just simply that I did the inflation calculation, and if we just went by 105,000 plus inflation, we'd be at 122. So, at this rate, we're giving the next mayor a pay cut, effectively. We just raised the salaries for everybody else in the city according to inflation, except for the 7 of us and the mayor. I think it's fair to give the mayor that same raise. Thanks.
Vice Chair Bloom, looked like you had your hand on that. Did you have any comment to the motion?
I was wondering if you wanted to propose an alternate motion then for that.
We have a motion and it's been seconded. I think we need to vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm calling a question. Yeah, I would just, I'm kind of along your lines of thinking, and I was just taking it all into the comments.
All right. Seeing no other lights on or hands online, let's look to Ms. Quick for a vote.
Vice Chair Bloom,
No.
Councilmember Jacob,
No.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Chair McConaughey,
No.
Councilmember Worthen,
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
No.
Okay, I show that failed 2 to 4. Kayleen asked to abstain. Is that correct, Kayleen?
Correct.
That's correct.
Or Councilmember Whitelock. Thank you. So I show that motion failed 2 to 4.
Okay. Councilmember Jacob.
I will make another motion then. I move to approve, what was the resolution number again? Sorry.
20-005.
23-005, setting the mayor's salary at 124,000.
I'll second.
Any discussion to the, before I look to the council, Mr. Anderson, did you have something to add?
No, thank you, sorry.
Okay. Discussion to the motion, Councilmember Pack.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yes, because we're, again, setting this 5 years in advance, basically, I was curious to ask Councilmember Jacob where the 124 calculation comes from.
Thank you for the question. It is the 105,000 plus inflation, plus a tiny bit, just for the future.
Inflation to take it to today's
Inflation
current
to
rate,
today, yep.
not next year when it actually starts, or
Right.
5 years down the road.
Yep. It's kind of a compromise. I still think it should be higher, but it's kind of a compromise with the 116 that was proposed.
Thank you.
Councilmember Green, and then we'll go to Vice Chair Bloom.
Well, if we want to include anticipated inflation for the next 5 years, why don't you just make it 160 and then we can compete with Salt Lake City? That's sarcastic, but I disagree with that. I disagree with that salary.
Vice Chair Bloom.
I agree with that salary because as Chair McConaughey pointed out and what you guys have said, we want to make this fair, but we don't want to, like Whitelock said, we don't want to have people come in for the pay, but we want to have that balance. And I think this strikes a good balance of being fair with inflation, with the size of our city, with it being a strong mayor. And it's not going to be one of the lower salaries that we have in our county. So I agree, it's fair.
Right, not seeing, Councilmember Pack.
And mayors aren't mandated to take the salary, right? So if it's felt that it could be lower, there's many elected officials that either just take a portion or don't. So it's not like a mandated amount.
Mr. Anderson, I saw your light come on. Were you responding to Councilmember Pack's question?
Yes, just for the benefit of the council, the mayor in code can take less of the approved salary, and that would just go into the general fund, but they cannot increase the salary.
All right, I'm not seeing any other lights or hands online, therefore I'll turn to Ms. Quick for a vote.
I apologize. Will you tell me who seconded the motion?
I did.
Thank you.
Vice
I'm
Chair,
sorry.
yeah.
Thank you.
Motion was by Councilmember Jacob, second by Vice Chair.
Thank you so much. Chair McConaughey,
Aye.
Councilmember Green,
No.
or Vice Chair Bloom,
Yes.
Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
Councilmember Worthen,
No.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Thank you. I show that motion passes 4-2.
All right. Thank you very much. We will move on now to consent items.
I move to approve consent items A and B.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Green, second by Councilmember Worthen. Any discussion to the motion? Believe we can do a voice vote for this one. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, Chair rules that motion passes. Council meeting wrap up, council remarks. Is there anybody who'd like to make any comments before we wrap up the meeting this evening? Not seeing any hands online or lights here. There are no administrative items to cover. Therefore, we do.
Actually, I do have a comment.
Okay, Councilmember Green.
So I'm trying to figure out how to, so I'll just say it. Tonight's meeting is really short. We should have, the way that we've done the meetings with the 2 business meetings and the work meeting, tonight's meeting, I think we could have, and we should have, had redevelopment meeting. With the station area plans coming online, and a couple of those station area plans are tied into the areas around this building that we've talked about redevelopment. We need to start talking about redevelopment. We have, over the last course, I've been on the city council for 3 years, and I'm going to tell you that this is my opinion, we have not had a decent redevelopment discussion in this city in 3 years. We've got the area at 70th South and Redwood Road. We've got the area at 90th South and Redwood Road and east to 13th East. We've got this area around us that are primed for redevelopment. And maybe a couple other areas as we drive east on 7800 South, as you get towards 27th. We need to have some discussions. So what I'm saying is I'm asking the council leadership to please look at and the RDA board and the executive director of the RDA, which is the mayor and his staff, to let's start really talking about appropriate RDA and what we really want to do in this city for RDA, EDA, CDA, and any other EIED, USDA, whatever we want to have, let's start to do that, because I think we're selling ourselves short in the vision of this city.
Councilmember Worthen.
Okay, I don't want to extend this for too long, but I always like to end on a positive, at least give a shout out. I don't know if it matters to people, but I was looking at Rob back there, our behind the scenes guy that makes sure that we're always connected and that the citizens can hear us and see us. And, and then I look over at this table over here with Cindy and, our staff, and there's a lot of behind the scenes people that get it done. And, I could name a lot more names that we have here at the city, but I just appreciate every single one of you. I appreciate the conversations. I appreciate the people that are sitting at the customer service desks. I appreciate the people in the passport office that, they don't get any recognition. They just kind of sit behind. And we talked earlier about the freezing water lines and the hats off. And I think there's a lot of people that deserve that hats off, because they just come to work every day and they do their part and they do their jobs. And they really honestly make each one of our lives easier because they put everything together for us. I mean, it's way easy just to get online and read everything we have to read, but it wouldn't be there without every single one of you guys. And we all live here in the city, and without everybody on the streets and keeping the streets clean and the sidewalks clean and servicing us. So for all those guys that are behind the scenes and you don't think you're being noticed, I notice, and I want to thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Worthen. I did also note a hand being raised by Mayor Burton. Mayor Burton, please.
Thank you, Council Chair. In listening to Councilmember Green, I agree, and we'll follow up on that. We'll put some things in place and bring it back to the council on there. Also, for your information, yesterday a planning commission member has resigned, Commissioner Marchant. So we are in the process of getting ready to replace her. So if you know of anybody who may be interested, we have a couple of applications on hand, but we're looking for some more that we'd like to use to choose from. Please send them towards Ariel, and he'll take their applications, and we'll review the process with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Moving on, next item on the agenda showed that there would be a closed session. However, we are not going to have that closed session this evening. Before I look to motion to adjourn, I just want to quickly say thank you to Mr. Paul Dodd for going above and beyond this evening. Your help was very much appreciated. Thank you, and from Oliver as well. Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn by Councilmember Green, second by Vice Chair Bloom. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned.
Hey, Kayleen, hope you're having fun in Hawaii.
Thank you. See the beautifuls? It's pretty here. I am. Thank you.
Cool.
Bye.